I hit. We're live streamed. We are officially live. So sorry for that warning, anyone. Actually, hang on a second. I'm about to get some. There we go. Gosh, yep. I was so excited. I hit the go live button. Welcome everybody to our bi-weekly design UX meeting. Let's just go ahead and start out with our introductions. I'll go ahead since I threw myself into this position. I'm Tim Erickson, St. Paul Tim. I just got back from Florida Drupal Camp, which has got me a bit fired up. Always good to go to the camps and meet people and hang out. Can't help but also mention that I came back from sunny Orlando, Florida, into what was predicted to be one of the worst snowstorms in 30 years, but it's really not that bad. It's only about 6 or 8 inches of snow. So, although parts of southern Minnesota is getting it much worse, so they may be having the worst storm in 10 years. I don't know, but not for me. Anyways, Robert, go next.
I'm Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet. And I'm in Altadena, California, which normally wouldn't be having snow, but I'm seeing snow on the hills outside my window now, and it's predicted to get down to our backyard overnight. So that'll be interesting.
Okay.
Take it away, Luke.
I am Luke McCormick in San Ramon, California, where there's some chance that it's going to get cold enough tonight that there'll be a slight sprinkling of snow on the mountains near me, which is exciting for us. I am Cell Ear on internet places that like names. I go by Edward on LinkedIn. It's my first name. Luke's my middle name. You didn't know that. And I'm going too long, so let's go to Greg.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm joining from Melbourne. Been 2 weeks that I returned from Greece. It's the other side of the world, so it's like 7 in the morning and it's 20 degrees here, so it's the opposite. Yeah, lots of things to discuss. So yeah, let's get to it.
Hey, so I'm sorry, you're back in
Melbourne.
Melbourne. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So we didn't have anything. We have a top, excuse me, on the forum, the Backdrop forum site. There's a place where anybody can post issues that they would like us to talk about in the meetings. I don't think we have anything posted for this meeting. Oh, the turkeys are back. Sorry, they've been gone for a while. We don't have anything posted for this meeting. We do have one for the next meeting, but I know that I've got one issue that we can talk about, and I know Greg has a few. So, is there anything, any other announcements? Let's just talk quickly about sort of what's going on in the community. So, I've noticed that recently noticed that Backdrop Live is only about a month away, and we had a bigger gap than usual between our last Backdrop Live and this one. Just like instead of 4 months, I think it was 5 months. But we need to get fired up about that. There are a number of camps and stuff coming up as well that we need to talk about in another venue. I just want to mention them today. Anything else going on? Any other announcements?
Sorry, before we move on, Tim, are we gonna have a separate meeting for organizing the live event, or is it gonna be like next week, the community?
Well, great question that I don't have an answer for. I know that this is not the necessarily the right meeting, although if we have extra time at the end, we could start to talk about it a little bit. We do not, I think we could use our community meeting for that, although I know that last week you guys or somebody brainstormed a number of other topics, and we have some other topics. Maybe what we'll do is use a little chunk of that community meeting to talk about Backdrop Live, and then I don't know, we might have to schedule something separate. We'll see. On the other hand, mostly mostly what has to happen, we know what needs to happen. We just need to dive in and do the work. So I need to make sure the website is up and running, and we just got to start promoting it and publicizing it. So I'll say one interesting development is the website, the Drupal Times, the drop times. They have been doing. I noticed it with Florida Drupal Camp. They've been doing some interesting work. I think they've made it kind of part of their mission to support camps and events, and they are very, very supportive of Backdrop. And so I'd really like to reach out to them. What they did for Drupal or Florida Drupal Camp was they contacted all of the speakers, and they did articles on each of the, like interviews with each of the speakers that replied to them. So they haven't gotten everybody, but they did a number of the speakers already, and they're still writing articles about some of the sessions that happened at Florida Drupal Camp. But their goal really is to help promote the camps. And I'm quite confident. I know some of the people involved in the drop times. I'm quite confident that they would be interested in partnering with us and maybe creating some coverage and helping get the word out. So that's a cool thing.
Cool.
Okay. So maybe we come back at the end of the meeting today. Otherwise, at least dedicate some time at the community meeting next week. It may not be the main thing, but for sure we'll talk about it a little bit. Let's go ahead and jump into our design UX issues. And if you have an issue that you want to start with, Greg, I'm going to bring up the one that I opened this week. I think you've given me good feedback. It isn't really stuck right now, but I'd like to see if Luke or Robert have any feedback on it during the meeting. But if you have something else you want to start with, you have something queued up for us?
Yeah, I've opened a few tabs. What I usually do is I go into the issue queue and I filter by the design label. So I have a few that were recently discussed, but let's discuss your issue first. Which one was it? Because I'm lost.
Well, I was hoping to open up a dev site before we talked about it. I could do that on the fly, I suppose. Or we have some screenshots. I don't know if we need a dev site. Let me just get the issue open. It's the core issue queue. This is not a major issue. While I'm opening this up, I'll give the quick backdrop for this, which is at Florida Drupal Camp, they did they do something regularly, lightning talks, where they have a plenary session with everybody gathers in the auditorium. People can just give quick 5-minute talks about anything Drupal related or anything just fun or even hobbies. They don't have to be Drupal related. But Mike Ganello of Drupal Easy, a well-known Drupal educator, got up and did a little talk about things that he doesn't like about Drupal or things that bother him. And one of the things he showed was this little quirk in the views interface that, at least to him, is really weird. And it's not something I had noticed before. I'll go ahead and share my screen. We have some screenshots here. I think I'll share my screen. What's happening? There it is. Basically, the issue is when you're going to set the format for a view. This is a really common thing that anybody that uses views will have run into. But again, most people may not really think about it. It says show, and then it's got this choice. And if you click on the choice, your choices are content or fields. And he didn't get real deep into it, but he said what he thinks the solution should be, which is that this should say content view mode, because that's really the choice you're making. You're really, both of these show content. You're not choosing between content and something else, which is fields. You're choosing between, you want to see content, do you want to format it in fields, or do you want to format it with display modes? Or view modes is the term that in Drupal he thinks is more appropriate. In Backdrop, I don't know if we distinguish between view modes and display modes. We did, Jason and I were at the camp, and we did a little PR that basically sort of did this content, changed that. So it said content view mode. And that was before, then we switched it to content display mode. Greg, you've properly pointed out the the capitalization is incorrect here. That's easy to fix.
Yep.
We've gotten a little bit of feedback that people aren't quite sure if they like this change. So basically, I thought I don't feel super strongly about this, but I thought, it's always it's like a really tiny minor PR victory when we learn about something that's frustrating folks in the Drupal community, and we can solve it quick, and then maybe go back and help them solve it. And that's what I'd like to do. If we can solve this, I'd like to go back. And then the issue just hasn't got. There is an issue in the Drupal issue queue. It just hasn't got a lot of attention. Greg has provided some alternatives, which I like. I haven't had enough time to really think about, but I think they might be suitable alternatives. I'd just like to see if Robert or Luke have any quick thoughts on this while we have you, and then we can move on to something else. This isn't worth spending a lot of time on.
Yeah, I have watched this go by in some of the commentary.
Okay.
I agree with the things that are being suggested in the direction it's going is clearer. I would ask whether those two labels could be made shorter than 3 words. I mean, and I realize this is getting down to nitpicking, but it could be shorter than 3 words, with the first one just being display mode, and the second one just being individual fields. Just having the word content in there, and the individual view fields just sounds longer than it needs to be. It's individual fields seems like it conveys, but either would be an improvement over the past. So I would not argue forcefully for the shorter version. I'll just suggest it.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. The ditching the word content, right? The reason so maybe in the first screenshot that you show there, Tim.
This one?
No. On my comment, I have 2 screenshots, 2 alternatives. No, sorry.
Right.
Not
I think this is the first one, and this is the second one.
Yeah. So see how it says content display mode? Maybe just say display mode. That's what you're saying, Robert,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. The reason why I kept it is because people that are familiar with this interface have gotten used to see content.
Right.
So just to make a connection between this is what we previously called content, but I agree. Let's wait for some feedback. That's a good suggestion. With the proof of concept PR, I actually used the other suggestion, not what I have in the screenshot, the views managed fields. So it's sort of like a combined word and the word fields. If you think about it, the display mode is also fields, right? So it's
but that's
Yeah, it basically boils down, the way that I approach it is, where do you manage those fields? With the first option, whatever we call it, you have to get out of views and go into the content and manage the fields via the display mode. Whereas with the second option, you stay within the view and there's a list of fields that you can manage just below these settings.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I get your point, Greg. I think that's a bit abstract. I mean, I think the assumption is, Backrop comes with a couple of display modes out of the box, right? And you can just choose them without having to think about fields. You could, if you're picking a display mode, you could pick the teaser or the full content. And you're not thinking like, oh, this is just a different way of changing fields. You're thinking about these other things that have already been made. So
what I haven't tested, because I haven't used this in quite a long time, I usually opt for the fields mode instead of the display mode, the content. So say that I choose a view mode that exists for a few content types. What happens for those content types that do not have this display mode? Does it fall back to the default one? Does anyone remember? Should I?
No, I have never in my life not used fields in a view.
I think I've used some of the default views. I think they use display modes.
Yeah, and and sort of I mostly use fields as well, but I think there are some use cases, and like one of them is these little blocks, the little blocks we have on the front page of the site. The reason, I mean, one of the reasons to use content modes is to treat them more like a component, because you can kind of theme a display mode, and then you can use it in different places on the site and have the same, CSS sort of.
Yeah,
display
I've used teasers in a lot of places, and it's exactly that. I can have a bunch of different views that are all showing the thing exactly the same way as a little thumbnail.
Right.
And teaser's perfect for that.
I'm enthusiastically in favor of exploring this. Almost want to rein in my enthusiasm a little bit, because as I say, I've never not used fields. So from my perspective, I think it should default to fields. The content, the display mode thing seems like a much more difficult concept to grasp. It's an extra step. It's a whole another part of the user interface. Like I would think that somebody coming into Views for the first time, if you show them fields, they could. I feel like that idea is pretty intuitive. Whereas to understand display modes, you got to take a class on that. I mean, it's a much more difficult thing. So,
it's kind of a paradox though, because how you manage fields in the display modes is much more user-friendly than how you do it in the views, because in views you have a very restricted, very small space. So you have to click a drop-down menu and then click a reorder button in order to remove things. So it says reorder, but you remove. So it has a few quirks there. But at the end of the day, I guess it's sort of like a matter of preference or what you've gotten used to.
Yeah, I mean, in the old day, like the Apple II was originally sold by a lot of people because they wanted to buy VisiCalc, and so they bought the thing that they used VisiCalc on, and that was an Apple. So that's how that ended up. For me, Drupal was like the thing that runs Views. So like I always viewed Views as being like the beating heart of most of what I want to do. So I'm hesitant to vote for any one choice within the possible solutions, but I love the fact that this question was brought up, and I think almost anything we change would be better than the current thing. And we need to walk slowly enough just to make sure we don't
So do people
stop on a suboptimal solution.
So what I'm hearing from you, Luke, is that an enthusiastic that this is worth changing. Now, the default was not planned as a part of this PR. We could change the default, but I'm afraid that's another discussion. I'd almost like to break that off and have it be a separate issue. Not that I disagree with it. I just feel like it'll kill this issue. But is it like Greg or did either of you? So some of the initial reaction from RG Piano and Killam, I don't know how to say that name. They seem to just like it the way it was. Does anybody think we shouldn't change this, or that it's good enough the way it is? Or do we agree that this could be improved?
No, I think that the Drupal folks as well, they've raised it. So they have some feedback from legitimate sources that this is confusing and it could be improved. One thing that I would like to point out, and maybe that's a thing for another issue. If you can go to the which one of the two pull requests, can you open the since you're sharing the screen?
Sure. Open your
the sandbox. Yeah, if you can log into
this is the one for your pull request. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'll need the. There we go. Would you want me to go to views?
Yeah, I've created a test view, so might want to. Yeah, that's the last one. Yeah, test view.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: without changing anything, and this is a default. What I've done is I created a view, I gave it a name, and I just clicked the save button. Right? I didn't change the defaults. To your point, to your suggestion, look, if we made fields the default option, then there's more work for people to get a result. Whereas if they use a display mode, they already have a display mode that displays most of the fields, right? And it's worth noting that the depending on the option that you select there, the next section which says fields either allows you to do something or it says that you cannot do something. So these are interrelated.
Yeah. I see. Because when you select the view mode, you get all the fields like blown right away, assuming they're there. It defaults to all of them.
Yeah.
Whereas fields defaults to just the title.
Yeah, and then you have to go and add again. So yeah. So if you switch back to content for a moment there, yeah, just leave the defaults. Yeah, see how the fields section now says this style or raw format does not utilize fields. So I was thinking how we could, I don't know, either hide it or merge those two. Anyway, but let's take one step at a time. I just wanted to point out that this section, this block there, is dependent on the selection above.
Right.
Yeah.
So we could hide this if fields are not selected.
Yeah.
I wonder though, I mean, I think the argument against that would be that then people might not know to switch this, right?
Yeah, I actually find that useful.
Right.
I mean, putting my mindset in someone new to it, if you said, oh, you just add the fields to your view, and they go, but there's no fields section.
Right.
Whereas this hints to them that they can change the field source.
Another thing that we could do is maybe list the content types there and link directly to the selected, links to each teaser display mode for each content type. At least it's useful because now it tells them you can't do anything here. At least link to the place where they can actually do something about it. But yeah, I'll file a separate issue for that. Anyway.
What I'd love to do sometime is, I think it could be an interesting thing to do at Backdrop Live is to have a session and say, we're just going to brainstorm how to make views better.
There is actually an issue. We have an issue about Wes started it. It was a few years ago.
I know that people have started it, but I think I don't know that there's any right now that there's any one place that says here's our roadmap. And it's a part of that session. A prep in advance of that session could be for somebody to gather together any suggestions that already exist, and then to have them ready, and then say, okay, so which of these make the most sense, and or what ideas do we have that aren't here? So.
Oh yeah. Another point that I would like to make, if you switch back to the issue tab, team, and open the Drupal.org issue.
Sure.
If you scroll to because we're discussing the two options, but you see the first screenshot, it actually shows search. Yeah. So I'm not sure how that comes up. Maybe search in Drupal 8 and beyond is like a separate thing.
Yeah. I don't think that was there in Drupal 7, but I do believe that this is a default option in Drupal 8 and 9.
Yep.
So yeah, the search results, that's a third option. It might be interesting to look up the history of that and see if that's something we should be thinking about, but it's not something we have right now.
My concern was if there's a contrib module that actually adds this there, because these are plugins.
I'm pretty sure that we looked, and that is there in Drupal core for Drupal 8. That search results. So, but I haven't played with it, so I don't know. I mean, I'm confused on what that would be. Like, presumably we've created a view to show all content. Like, what I don't know. I don't understand what this is. I'd have to open it up and look at it, right?
Well, I just looked at it.
Mhm.
In Drupal 10, it does in fact show search results as an option. It also seems to default to fields. Interestingly.
Interesting. Okay.
I just went into like a brand new head D10 that I have around and
Okay.
did a new view, and it defaulted to fields.
Interesting. Well, maybe we should find the issue and see the argument and see if we agree with that, because I can see either one of the arguments for keeping it on content is that or view modes is that that's what we kind of use. Like I don't know of any of the views in core that use fields. They all use view modes, but maybe that's a problem. Maybe we should switch them to using fields. I know I tend to use fields mostly. But there are use cases where content view mode works better. Anyways, okay, enough of this. I think we talked about this more than I thought we would. It seems like people, I don't hear anybody on this call like feeling like this is a really urgent issue, but there seems to be some agreement that this is worth spending some time on if we can. And it's, it was one of those things where Justin and I had just seen Mike Anello talk about that, and we said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could fix this really quick and then inspire and feed that back to Drupal, and not to mention the fact that we could tease Mike Anello about it. So, okay. And for those who don't know, Mike Anello is one of the organizers of Drupal Florida Camp, also Drupal Easy. He used to do a podcast. I don't know if he does it anymore. He used to do a podcast. He used to do a lot of videos about learning Drupal, and now he teaches courses for developers, and really a lot of Drupal developers have learned Drupal from him. And that's one of the reasons I take his feedback on this pretty seriously, is because he spends a lot of time explaining Drupal to people. So I think that has influenced his frustration with this. Let's move on. Do you have another issue? And I'm going to stop sharing. And if you want to share and show something, Greg.
Yeah, good. Just bear with me. Have a few issues there. Let me just share. Everybody see this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So this is, I guess, where we'll probably trade issues and pull requests, Robert, with you. I promise to focus on that more or less thing. Because you're the maintainer of the equivalent module in Contrib and Backdrop Contrib. Mm-hmm. So this is what we have in taxonomy. When you switch taxonomy to checkboxes and radius, the nesting and the indication of whether a thing is a child of something else was previously done with dashes. I think that at some point we've changed that, and now we have like dots. I can't remember. It's not periods. I can't remember what they're called. Anyway, but this module actually provides some indentation, some nesting, and it's much better than this, right? Mm-hmm. I try to play on my local. This is what it is. They're called mid dots. Yeah. So we've changed those to mid dots right in the drop down. Yeah, and this is what people get now. This is a more recent screenshot of what they get. And I was hoping that maybe we can strip down just the bit, because this module does other things as well, but we could just strip down the bit that fixes this portion and then put it into core.
Okay, so you're advocating actually indenting the checkboxes rather than indenting the dots, right?
Yes. So these dots are there because if you go into, if you go into, we'll need what? A vocabulary. Let's go to structure, tags. I'll add a couple of tags here, a couple of terms. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I'll go back to the vocabulary, and you can do this, and this and that. So now you have some nesting here.
Yeah.
Right, and then if you go to, I'll just go to the page. And minus fields. No, the checkboxes. Yes. So this is the thing here,
Yeah,
right? If I switch to actually change this to select list. So I would just wanted to demonstrate what the use of the mid dots, like how it.
right.
This is the reason, because in the select,
Yeah.
it sort of like looked nice when we did it,
Right.
but when you change it to checkboxes, it doesn't make sense. It's a bit odd. Anyway.
Well,
By the way, look, I created this is a fresh installation of Drupal 10, and I added a view, and it's not the default. Is it still alive?
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna step away for just a second. Keep talking.
anyway, so Robert, if you could have a look, because I did try, but I got lost in the code. But yeah, sort of like in your to-do list, right?
Yeah. And I had an issue a while back where I needed to put classes on term children for some formatting things. So I can go look up the code to try to find the code where I did that, because that's probably the same place the same way to do it here.
All right, and then what other things? These are, just see if I can. So I'm not sure if you guys saw this 5979 search settings. There's this pattern. Do I have a pull request for this one? No, I don't. I'll just go and open one of the pull requests that I have. I'll just reuse the sandbox for this one, just to demonstrate. So there's a few places where we have the same pattern. I'll need to enable a few modules so that you can see it. Let's see. I'll add a wrong language there. So we have this thing of a table where you could potentially reorder things, but the key thing is that you have things that you can enable, disable, and add, and then you can select which one will be the default. So what I was proposing is that we do the same thing for the certs. So if I go to configuration, certs and set settings here, you will see that we have this odd thing where we have a set of options here, and then we repeat the same set of options here just for the sake of selecting a default, which is done nicely here. So I thought that maybe we could reuse this. And the other day I was doing something else, and what was it? And I found another place where we could use it. What was it? Wasn't that? Would it be that it was roles? Finishes. Sorry, I can't remember right now.
Have we I'm sorry, I stepped away for a second. Have we moved on to a completely different issue, or is this related?
Yes,
to...
yes. So I was discussing 5979.
Okay.
And I was showing, I enabled the language and locale modules, and I was showing how we have this pattern of a table where we have items, rows, where we can enable or disable things and potentially add table drag to it, and how you can select the default, which one of these will be the default. And then I was showing that we have this odd thing here where we have, this is the set settings, where we have a set of items, and these can be more items here. Other modules can add more items here, right? And then you have this being repeated in the form of radio buttons just for the sake of selecting a default. And what I'm proposing, one of the changes that I'm proposing is that we switch that to a table that is similar to the
I got it.
yeah, maybe this, yeah, this is a little bit better now. Yes, and then I was thinking that this section with the factors, like you rarely change it once you tweak it. So maybe we could put it in a collapsed field set. Then for the indexing here, maybe we can just organize these things a bit better and provide a better looking indexing status. And this is sort of like something that Search API provides. So people coming from Drupal and Drupal 7, not only Drupal 8, will be used to seeing this instead of what we show them here, which is just text as a visual indication. And so, I closed. Let me I'll just spin up a D10 site real quick. This is, I saw that after I created the screenshots, like this proposal. Yes, this is something, this section here, the logging is just, I never use it. And it has a warning as well that you shouldn't leave it on because it affects performance. And I thought that it's way too prominent up here. Like the most useful things would be these. So I proposed to just remove the field set around it and just, put it at the bottom here, just hide it away. But yeah, it's worth noting that D10 has placed actually the indexing at the top of the page. So yeah. So there's certain things that changed, but they've put the indexing at the top, and I think that this is legitimate as well. Because this is like after you've set up searching on your site, you visit this page mostly for re-indexing, to just see the index status. The rest of it, you rarely change it. But yeah, so anyway, just I haven't filed a pull request for this one. I'm just waiting for feedback from others. And now I'm scratching my head. There was this very odd thing where you select the default. Make a default. There was another thing where we could reuse this pattern, but I can't remember now. It's content types, custom works. Anyway, I can't remember now, sorry. And then another issue that I have is 5989. So Nate worked on the pull request that added the filter here in the permissions page, and we also added keep forgetting what I want to say. So we added role descriptions, right? And what we've done is we added those descriptions. If they exist, we are adding them here as a pop-up when you hover your mouse over the titles, but there is no indication whatsoever that is there as a feature. Initially, I said something about maybe indicating it by underlining these, but with dotted underlines, or adding a question mark that people can click. But there's usability and accessibility issues with pop-ups, and in general, like I've done a lot of research here. When someone has some time, just read through this. It's with regards to not using the title attribute, basically, which is what we're doing here. And there's no ideal solution. We'll have to compromise. Something will not work ideally, but as it is now, it's not accessible. and we should do something about it. But there's more details here. In general, all the articles that I read is like, if it's important information, do not hide it in a interactive thing, just show it. But I don't know how we could, like, if you have the descriptions for the roles, I don't know, like there's no real estate here where we can, place them without, yeah.
Right.
Another thing, so the gist of it is that as it is now, it's not ideal, like it's not discoverable as a feature. We should expose it, find a way to expose it. It's not going to be ideal or perfect or perfectly accessible, but at least it's going to be better than what we have.
You may have addressed it but I've seen in a lot of places like that, if there's extra information you want as a pop-up, just there's like a question mark in a circle right next to the thing. And then that tells enough, oh, this is something you can click on, and then throws up information. Is that something that could be considered?
We have an issue for that, and I thought about it, but then I can't remember which one of these articles it is. It's one of them. I think it's this one that it suggests that you shouldn't be doing that. Creating icons for the sake, yes, creating icons for the sake of showing a pop-up with more information. I can't remember which one of these it was, but it's in one of these. For the sake of, I might just real quickly, just bear with me. Yes, so it discusses it here and here. So it's a similar use case where you don't show the notification bubble with the text straight ahead, but you make this thing clickable. So when you click it, the bubble shows. There's a lot of reading involved. So yeah.
Okay.
I'll stop sharing my screen if I find the thing. What was I working on now?
Well, we're running out of time, just so we don't need to fill more time, but we can, if you have something else you want to talk about, there's no reason we can't go a little longer.
These are I quickly skimmed through the most recent issues, as I said, when I filtered by design, but if you guys have any other design related issue, we can discuss it. Like we have another 8 minutes or so. Or if we don't have time to discuss it, at least bring it up so that it's on our to-do list, on our radar, to give you feedback.
Sure. I don't have anything else right now. We could jump back into spend a few minutes on Backdrop Live. I think, does anybody know, it would be interesting to see if the big thing is usually just to get registration open. And that is oftentimes kind of a blocker, but it might be open already. Can anybody help me verify that? If we go to Backdrop Live.
Yep.
No, I'm not seeing a registration. Is that because I'm already registered, or is anybody else seeing registration? The ability to register for March 2023?
It's not it's events, right, on the events.
Yeah, events.backdropcms.org. I have a feeling, and this could be, no, I'm not logged in, so it wouldn't know whether I'm registered. It just says save the date. I don't think registration is open. So I think that's got to be our first priority, is getting registration open.
Yeah, I don't see any option. You have to be logged in to see the option to register?
You shouldn't. I was sort of asking you guys to let me know what you saw.
When I'm not logged in, I don't see the option. I'll just log in just to double check.
Right. It should. You do have to log in to register, but you should certainly see the option before you log in.
No, I don't see it.
Yeah.
Either way.
Right. Oh, it looks like we need security updates is that just the recent ones?
It's the board.
Okay, it's the
board
board
thing.
one.
I
Okay.
just going through both forum and events need a whole slew of updates, but Borg is the theme is the only security one.
Okay.
That's actually now on my to-do list, so I'll take care of those.
Okay.
Oh, I remembered. I'll share my screen again. It's the contact module. Sorry, the other pattern, which has a really silly. Sorry. So I'll have to. That's why I couldn't find it, because it's not enabled by default. Just let me enable it real quick. So yeah, this is even worse, because the default thing is just a yes or a no, and you have to go into the specific thing and select if it's going to be the default. This is horrible. Like this should go. So this is a third use case in core where we could be reusing this pattern, this UI pattern here.
Okay.
And it's more apparent if I just add another category here. Just call it test so that I can do it real quick. Yeah, this doesn't give you the option, like you can see the similarity, right?
Mhm.
The option to select the default should be exposed here rather than having. So if I go here and I change the node to yes, then it automatically changes this one's yes to a no, because
Okay.
I find it really odd. Anyway,
So Greg, I think you showed three issues, and all three of them, I agree that the direction you're going, it seems to be better. I don't disagree with any of the suggestions. I'm not sure, are you? Do we have PRs? Do you need something specific on any of those?
For
Right
some
now?
of them, I have PRs. For some of them, I have screenshots. All I need is feedback. Like when you get a chance, just play around with a PRs if there is one, or just have a look at the screenshots and let me know what you think.
Okay, did you put all three of these in the agenda? Or
I
could you?
haven't, but I will.
Okay. List them in the agenda. Then we should probably go ahead and wrap this meeting up and start to get ready for the dev meeting. Okay,
Okay.
so, I have to end the recording. Stop the live stream.